Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Shivkumar, and in today's video I'm going to talk about heterogeneous computing. We're going to explore what it is, what you need it, when you need it, and how it solves real performance problems. This isn't about the latest buzzword or the most exciting cutting-edge technology. It's about understanding when single-core systems hit their limits and what practical solutions are available. We'll look at concrete examples, real performance numbers, and actual chips you can use today. By the end, you'll know when heterogeneous computing makes sense for your projects and when it doesn't. So let's start with what heterogeneous computing is not, because there's often confusion about this. Heterogeneous computing is not when you only have one core that does all the tasks. That's traditional single-core computing, one processor handling everything sequentially. It's also not just having multiple identical cores doing the same thing. That's parallel computing, but it's homogeneous. And it's not about using different programming languages or software frameworks on the same hardware. What we're talking about is fundamentally different, using multiple cores with different capabilities, each optimized for specific types of work. Today we'll cover what this looks like in practice, when you need it, and what the trade-offs are. We'll look at specific examples from Nordic, Texas Instruments, and NXP. We'll also address the challenges. Honestly, this isn't a silver bullet. What we won't cover today is the detailed programming model or specific development environment. That's a separate topic. Our focus is on understanding the architecture and making informed decisions about when to use it. So let's start by understanding how single-core systems work. Now here we have a typical Arduino Uno with an i.MX 328P processor. A single core running at 16 MHz. Now look at the execution time. In sequential processing, everything happens one after the other. First, the sensor reading takes time, then data processing. Notice this is a complex algorithm that takes longer. Then wireless communication, then display updates, then the system sits idle, waits, and starts the next cycle. This is a 200 millisecond cycle, giving us about 5 Hz update rate. Everything is sequential, no parallelism. Now let's look at the 4 fundamental problems with this approach. First, blocking operations. That long data processing task blocks everything else. Nothing can happen until it finishes. Second, no true parallelism. You literally cannot handle multiple tasks simultaneously. Third, poor real-time performance. Critical tasks get delayed by non-critical ones. If the sensor reading is time-critical, it has to wait for the data processing to finish. And then fourth, difficult code organization. All functionality gets mixed together in one main loop, making it hard to manage and maintain. Now look at the code example at the bottom. This is a typical Arduino sequential code. Each function call blocks the next one. The comment says it all, like long computational block, wireless, and might miss time-critical data. Now this sets up our fundamental problem. When you need better performance, better real-time responses, or better code organization, sequential single-core execution becomes the bottleneck. Let's look at a concrete example of where single-core becomes a problem. Here's a typical Arduino scenario. We're reading sensors, processing data, sending it wirelessly, and updating a display. Now let's look at the timeline. The sensor reading takes 20 milliseconds. Then data processing takes 60 milliseconds. That's a long algorithm blocking everything else. Then wireless communication for 30 milliseconds. Then display update for 20 milliseconds. Now here's where it gets really problematic. What happens if we have an interrupt-driven sensor? Let's say we have a motion sensor that triggers an interrupt or a temperature sensor that needs immediate attention. During that 60 millisecond data processing block, even if an interrupt fires, we can't properly handle it because the main loop is stuck in that processing algorithm. Sure, the interrupt service routine might run briefly, but it can't do much. It just sets a flag. The actual sensor processing has to wait until the main loop finishes. That's 60 millisecond computation. So a time-critical sensor event at 30 milliseconds into the processing cycle has to wait another 30 milliseconds plus the wireless communication time before it can be properly handled. Let's do the math. Now total cycle time is 130 milliseconds. That gives us an update rate of 1000 divided by 130, which equals to approximately 7.7 Hertz. That's slow, but here's the real problem. During that 60 millisecond data processing block, we're not just missing scheduled sensor readings, we're also delaying interrupt-driven sensor responses. Look at the bottom section. We need sensor readings every 20 milliseconds, but we get one at 0, then nothing until 80 milliseconds. We have missed 3 critical readings, and any interrupts during that processing time period are effectively delayed. The CPU is busy, but it's inefficient. Critical sensors interrupts are delayed by non-critical data processing. This is the fundamental problem with sequential execution. Even with interrupts, you're still limited by the longest blocking operation in your main loop. So now let's ask a practical question. When is single core computing good enough, and when do we need something more? On the left side, single core works fine for many applications. From home automations like controlling lights or reading basic sensors, simple IoT devices where you're just collecting data occasionally, battery powered devices where simplicity means longer battery life, cost sensitive applications, and hobby projects. But on the right side, we see where single core becomes limiting. Real-time control systems where you can't afford delays. Automotive applications where safety is critical. Industrial automation with tight timing requirements. Audio and video processing, AI and machine learning at the edge. High-frequency data acquisitions. Multimodal sensor fusion. The key point here is to choose the right tool for the job. Not everything needs to be cutting edge. But when performance and timing matters, we need to look at other options. So what's the solution? Heterogeneous computing, where you have multiple cores doing different tasks simultaneously. Now let's look at the contrast over here. On the left, we have our single core problem. And on the right, we have multiple specialized cores. Now a sensor core, a processing core, a communication core, and display core. I mean, you can divide your cores accordingly, and many cores have many processors. Modern day processors have specialized cores for specialized applications. Now you look at the timeline. Now sensor reading happens every 20 milliseconds like they should. Processing happens in parallel. Communication and display happens in parallel. All cores work simultaneously. The result? Updated rate jumps to 50 plus Hertz. That's a 6.5x performance improvement. The key insight is the definition at the bottom. Multiple cores with different capabilities working together. Each core is optimized for specific tasks. The sensor core handles sensor processing, handles sensors. Processing core handles algorithms. Communication core handles wireless. Display core handles display. True parallelism, better resource utilization, improved responsiveness, and deterministic behavior. But there are trade-offs. Increased complexity, higher cost, more challenges, programming, and power considerations. So let's look at an example of 3 real chips that I kind of like work with that demonstrates different approaches to heterogeneous computing. On the left, we have the Nordic NRF5340. Now this is a dual core Bluetooth LE system on a chip. It has application core running at 128 MHz with 512 KB of RAM, and a network core at 64 MHz with 64 KB of RAM. The application core handles your main application logic like user interface and sensor processing and controlling many of the peripheral input-output devices. The network core is dedicated to Bluetooth and all the other wireless communication like Zigbee and other topologies in the radio management and the network stack. They communicate through both the cores can communicate through inter-process communication. Next, we have the Texas Instrument TDA4VM. This is a much more complex and is designed for automotive AI and visual processing. It has an ARM Cortex-A72 quad core running at 2 GHz for the operating system and applications. You could run mostly Linux. Then it has 2 DSP cores, those are digital signal processing cores, a C66X for signal processing and a C7X specifically for AI and machine learning inference, plus a Cortex-M4 for real-time safety functions. They're all connected by a high-speed interconnect bus. This delivers 8 TOPS, trillion operations per second of AI performance and over 1000 giga operations per second of DSP performance. Finally, we have the NXP i.MX RT1170. Now this is a dual core real-time controller. The M7 core runs at 1 GHz and handles graphics, complex algorithms, and communication. The M4 core runs at 400 MHz and handles motor control, time-critical input-output, and safety functions. They share memory and peripherals and communicate through a messaging unit. Now, these three different approaches, simple dual-core for IoT, complex multi-core for automotive, and balanced dual-core for real-time applications. So you can see that each of these kind of compute and processors can handle a lot more things in a much more and more diverse applications that a simple Arduino may not necessarily be able to deliver. So let's look at the architectural comparison and let's look at the use cases. Now, the NRF5340, while it's a dual-core Cortex M33 architecture, it focuses on ultra-low power and Bluetooth LE optimization. The dedicated radio core is the key over here. Now, the primary use case are IoT devices, wearables, smart home products, and fitness trackers. The TDA4VM with its heterogeneous A72 plus DSP plus M4 architecture delivers high AI performance and is automotive grade with safety certifications. Now, those use cases are ADAS, assistant driving technology, autonomous vehicles, industrial vision, robotics, drones, and more sophisticated where you want to have AI on the edge system. And the i.MX RT1170 with its dual-core Cortex M7 and M4 provides real-time determinism and graphic capabilities. Now, you could use the 1 MHz M7 with shared memory architecture, targeting industrial human-machine interfaces like HMI, motor control, real-time audio, and edge AI applications. Now, the key insight is that each architecture is optimized for different performance versus power versus complexity trade-offs. So it's not like they are just the same cores designed. They're not homogeneous cores, they are heterogeneous cores that are dedicated for very specific applications on that chipset. Like, for example, the NRF540 puts power efficiency first, so that when your wireless communication is happening, it's also happening in parallel, whereas the other applications where reading sensors can also happen on the other core. This allows a much more efficient way of utilization of the system on the chip and the application. Now, the TDA4VM delivers maximum AI performance, and the i.MX RT focuses on real-time determinism, which could be very, very essential for things like motor control and other applications, which are very much time sensitive. So what are the heterogeneous computing trends? Now, before we wrap up, let's look at where heterogeneous computing is heading. Now, there are four major trends shaping the industry. The first, specialization. We're seeing cores increasingly optimized for specific workloads. We've got AI cores, DSP cores, control cores, and graphic cores. This isn't just about having different cores, as I mentioned. It's about having cores that are fundamentally designed for specific tasks. The result is better performance per watt compared to general purpose cores trying to do everything. The second trend, integration, is the trend that more cores on a single chip, the system on a chip approach. Instead of having separate chips for different functions, everything gets integrated. This reduced system complexity lowers cost and improves performance because you don't have the overhead of inter-chip communication. Third, AI acceleration. We are seeing dedicated neural processing units becoming standard, not just in high-end automotive chips like the TDA4VM, but across the spectrum. Edge AI is becoming mainstream. Your smartphone, your smart speakers, your car, they all have dedicated AI accelerations now. And fourth, real-time capabilities. There's increasing demand for deterministic time guarantees, especially in safety-critical applications. Things from drones, from automotives, to trains, to many applications. This isn't just about being fast, it's about being predictably fast. When you're controlling a motor or managing a safety system, you need to know exactly when things will happen. These trends reinforce what we have seen in our chip examples. The NRF5340 shows specialization when it's dedicated with its dedicated radio cores. The TDA4VM shows integration with multiple core types on one chip plus AI acceleration. The i.MX RT1170 shows real-time focus with its deterministic dual-core architecture. The industry is moving more towards more specialized integration, AI-capable, and deterministic heterogeneous systems. This isn't just a trend for high-end applications anymore, it's becoming the standard approach for performance-critical embedded systems. But also, let's be realistic about the challenges. Heterogeneous computing does not, come with programming complexity. You now have to manage multiple cores instead of one. Debugging becomes more difficult when you have parallel executions and timing issues. The synchronization overhead. when cores need to communicate, and there's always the risk of vendor lock-in when you choose a specific platform. But there are success factors that help you manage these challenges. First, choose the right architecture for your specific use case. Don't over-engineer. Second, invest in proper development tools. Good debuggers and profilers are essential over here. And third, start simple and scale complexity gradually. Don't try to do everything at once. And fourth, consider long-term maintainability from the beginning. Bottom line, the benefits outweigh the challenges for performance-critical applications. If you need the 6.5x performance improvement we showed earlier, if you need real-time determinism, if you need parallel processing capabilities, then heterogeneous computing is worth the added complexity. The question isn't whether heterogeneous computing is more complex. It is. The question is whether that complexity is justified by your performance requirement. All right, that's it for me today, and I hope you found this video extremely helpful into the introduction of heterogeneous computing. In the next following videos, we could do a lot more programming exercises to kind of like get a sense of how to use the Nordic or the i.MX RT1170 from NXP or the Texas Instruments. These are the kind of development boards that I have, and I can, show a little bit coded demonstrations on these heterogeneous, how to use multiple cores on these devices. Having said that, please subscribe if you like this video, like them, and until next time, take care. Thank you so much.